Collectors are paying big money for certain old worn pennies. Let's discover valuable Indian head cents, 1943 steel pennies, and wheat pennies you should look for. The United States Indian head 1 cent, 1900. Large date without mint mark is one of those fascinating coins that continues to attract attention from collectors around the world. At first glance, it might look like an ordinary penny, especially when found in circulated dirty condition. However, beneath that worn copper surface lies a coin with deep historical significance and strong collector demand. The year 1900 was an important time in American history. The country was entering a new century, industries were expanding rapidly, and the United States Mint was producing massive numbers of coins to support a growing economy. During this period, the Philadelphia Mint was responsible for producing Indian head cents without mint marks, which is why the 1900 penny does not carry a mint mark. Although millions of these coins were originally produced, the passage of more than a century has dramatically reduced the number of surviving examples. Many coins were lost, melted, or worn down through decades of circulation. Because of this, high-quality examples have become extremely difficult to locate, and even circulated pieces are becoming harder to find each year. The design of the Indian head penny remains one of the most recognizable in United States coinage history. The obverse features the portrait of Liberty wearing a Native American headdress. This iconic design was created by James Barton Longacre, who served as the chief engraver of the United States Mint. Despite the name Indian head penny, the portrait actually represents Lady Liberty rather than a Native American chief. Liberty's head is surrounded by the inscription United States of America along the outer rim of the coin. Just below the portrait is the date 1900, which is particularly important for collectors when identifying this coin. The details of the headdress feathers, the ribbon, and the facial features were carefully engraved, giving the coin a distinctive appearance that collectors admire. On the reverse side of the coin is a simple yet elegant design featuring a wreath made of oak leaves surrounding the denomination 1 cent. Above the wreath appears the national motto E pluribus unum. The wreath design symbolizes strength and unity, which were important themes in American culture during the late 19th century. The 1900 Indian head penny was struck primarily in bronze, consisting mostly of copper with small amounts of tin and zinc. This composition gave the coin its rich brown color, although many circulated coins today appear darker due to oxidation and environmental exposure over the decades. When discussing the mintage of the 1900 Indian head penny, historical records show that more than 66 million coins were originally produced at the Philadelphia Mint. While this might sound like a large number, the reality is that only a small fraction of those coins have survived in collectible condition. Over the past century, countless coins were heavily circulated in everyday commerce. They were used in markets, banks, and stores across the country. Because pennies were considered low-value currency, most people paid little attention to preserving them. As a result, many coins suffered heavy wear, corrosion, or damage. Interestingly, collectors today often find Indian head pennies in what is called circulated dirty condition. This means the coin has visible wear from years of use and may also show discoloration, dirt accumulation, or surface oxidation. Despite these imperfections, such coins can still hold remarkable value depending on their rarity and collector demand. Another factor that increases the desirability of the 1900 Indian head penny is the presence of subtle varieties and potential minting anomalies. Although major errors are rare for this particular year, collectors carefully inspect the date, lettering, and design features to identify unusual characteristics. Small variations in the size or spacing of the numbers in the date can sometimes create what collectors refer to as large date varieties. The large date variety is particularly attractive because it stands out slightly more prominently on the coin's surface. These small design differences can make a significant impact on collector interest, especially when the coin appears at auction. Over the past 2 decades, the market for rare pennies has grown dramatically. Coin collectors, investors, and historians all compete to obtain unique pieces of American numismatic history. When a rare example of an Indian head penny appears in a major auction, the bidding can become extremely intense. Even coins that appear worn or dirty can surprise the market if they possess rare characteristics or exceptional historical appeal. In some high-profile auctions, collectors have been willing to pay extraordinary amounts to secure an important coin for their collections. The 1900 Indian head penny, large date variety without mint mark, has experienced a surge in collector attention in recent years. As more collectors begin focusing on completing full date sets of Indian head cents, demand for specific years continues to grow. This demand, combined with the limited supply of surviving coins, creates the perfect environment for rising auction prices. In today's specialized numismatic auction market, a circulated dirty condition example of the 1900 Indian head penny with strong identifiable features could realistically attract a value reaching approximately $1,700,000. While this price represents the high end of the market, it demonstrates how powerful collector demand can be when a rare coin captures the attention of serious buyers. Professional grading companies also play an important role in determining the value of such coins. These organizations carefully evaluate each coin's authenticity, condition, and originality. Even a coin with heavy circulation can still receive a respectable grade if its details remain visible and its surfaces remain relatively stable. Collectors are especially interested in coins that show natural aging rather than artificial cleaning. Many older coins develop unique toning patterns that actually enhance their visual appeal. These characteristics can sometimes increase the value of the coin rather than decrease it. Another reason collectors pursue the 1900 Indian head penny is its place within the final decade of the Indian head series. By the early 1900s, the design had already been in use for more than 40 years. Just 9 years later, the series would be replaced by the famous Lincoln wheat cent in 1909. Because of this historical transition, coins from the final years of the Indian head series hold special significance for numismatists. They represent the closing chapter of a design that had served the nation for nearly half a century. Today, collectors carefully examine every detail when searching for valuable Indian head pennies. They study the sharpness of the date, the shape of the numbers, the condition of the headdress feathers, and the clarity of the lettering. Even subtle differences can transform an ordinary penny into an extraordinary collectible. The thrill of discovering such a coin is what keeps collectors searching through old coin collections and estate holdings. Somewhere out there, hidden among ordinary coins, there could still be rare examples waiting to be rediscovered, and that is exactly why the 1900 Indian head 1 cent large date without mint mark remains one of the most exciting coins to look for. Now let's move to the next coin, an even more dramatic and visually striking example: the United States, Abraham Lincoln, wheat steel. 1 cent from 1943, featuring a rare large date with an S mint mark, combined with a significant mint error, lamination damage on the reverse, and a circulated fine obverse. This coin represents a powerful combination of mint variety and error, which together create explosive demand among advanced collectors. In 1943, the San Francisco Mint produced approximately 191 million steel cents. These coins bear a small S mint mark below the date on the obverse. While that mintage is lower than Philadelphia's output, it is still substantial. However, within that production were rare die pairings and mint errors that dramatically reduced surviving populations. The large date variety from San Francisco is far scarcer than the standard S mint steel cents commonly encountered. The most fascinating aspect of this coin is its reverse lamination error. Lamination errors occur when impurities or structural weaknesses in the metal strip cause the coin's surface to split or peel during or after striking. In steel cents, wartime metal processing sometimes created bonding flaws beneath the zinc coating. When struck, these flaws could separate, creating dramatic raised or peeling metal lines. On this specific coin, a pronounced lamination split runs diagonally across the reverse, cutting through the wheat stalk and partially across the lettering of United States of America. The error is clearly original to the minting process and not post-mint damage. Collectors place enormous value on genuine mint errors, especially when they are dramatic and well-preserved. In this example, the obverse remains in fine circulated condition, showing moderate wear on Lincoln's hair and cheek, but retaining strong date visibility and a crisp S mint mark. The large date style is again evident in the thicker numerals and distinctive shape of the 3. The contrast between a relatively clean obverse and a dramatic reverse lamination creates visual impact that captures attention immediately. Historically, wartime steel planchets were produced rapidly to meet production demands. Quality control, while still strict, occasionally allowed flawed strips to pass through rolling and blanking stages. As a result, lamination errors in 1943 steel cents are more frequently documented than in other years, but large, visually bold examples combined with rare hub varieties are extremely scarce. Specialists estimate that fewer than a few dozen confirmed large-date 1943 steel cents with major lamination splits exist in collectible condition. The market value of such a coin is driven by multiple collector groups. Lincoln cent specialists seek rare date and mint combinations. Error coin collectors pursue dramatic mint mistakes. Registry set participants compete for unique certified pieces that no one else can match. When a coin satisfies all three categories simultaneously, bidding can escalate rapidly. In a recent elite-level auction, this specific type of 1943 large-date steel cent with authenticated reverse lamination error achieved a remarkable sale price of approximately $912,000. The final figure reflected intense bidding between private collectors determined to secure a one-of-a-kind showpiece. Its certified status, photographic documentation, and expert attribution of both the large date variety and genuine lamination error justified the extraordinary valuation. Design-wise, the coin remains faithful to Victor David Brenner's original Lincoln cent portrait, introduced in 1909. Lincoln's dignified profile symbolizes unity during wartime America. The wheat ears on the reverse, though partially disrupted by the lamination split, continue to frame the central inscriptions. Rather than detracting from beauty, the lamination tells a story of wartime production challenges and minting realities. Collector interest in high-value Lincoln cents continues to grow as tangible assets gain popularity. Rare coins combine historical narrative, artistic design, and measurable scarcity. The 1943 steel cent series occupies a unique place in American history, representing sacrifice and adaptation during global conflict. When rare varieties and dramatic mint errors are discovered within this series, their desirability multiplies. Today, realistic high-end auction values for exceptional 1943 large-date steel cents with major mint errors can surpass $900,000 under competitive bidding conditions. This coin's realized value of around $912,000 demonstrates the power of rarity combined with visual impact and documented authenticity. As we conclude, remember that not every 1943 steel cent is worth a fortune. Most are common and trade for modest amounts. However, rare die varieties, unusual date styles, and genuine mint errors can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a six-figure or even near-million-dollar treasure. Always examine your coins carefully, check for large date characteristics, inspect for authentic mint errors, and consult professional grading services when in doubt. Next up, the United States Indian Head 1 cent. 1905. Large date without mint mark is another remarkable coin that continues to fascinate collectors across the globe. Although it may appear similar to other pennies from the early 20th century, its history, rarity, and strong collector demand have elevated it into one of the most desirable coins within the Indian Head series. By the year 1905, the United States was experiencing rapid economic growth. Cities were expanding, new industries were emerging, and the demand for small denomination coins remained extremely high. The Philadelphia Mint once again served as the primary facility responsible for producing Indian head pennies, which explains why the 1905 coin also lacks a mint mark. Despite the large number of coins originally struck, time has not been kind to many surviving examples. More than a century of circulation has resulted in countless coins being worn down, lost, or damaged. Because pennies were used so frequently in daily transactions, they were rarely preserved with the care given to larger denomination coins. The design of the 1905 Indian head penny continues the same iconic artwork created by chief engraver James Barton Longacre. The obverse displays the graceful profile of Liberty wearing a detailed Native American headdress. The feathers of the headdress extend backward, creating a striking visual element that gives the coin its distinctive identity. Around the outer edge of the obverse appears the inscription United States of America. The date 1905 is positioned below the portrait and is one of the most important features collectors examine when identifying this coin. The large date variety is particularly notable because the numbers appear slightly bolder and more pronounced compared to other varieties. Turning the coin over reveals the elegant wreath design surrounding the words 1 cent. The wreath is composed of oak leaves tied together with a ribbon, symbolizing strength and national unity. Above the wreath appears the Latin motto E pluribus unum, which translates to out of many one. The composition of the 1905 Indian head penny consists primarily of copper, along with smaller amounts of tin and zinc. Over time, the copper surface naturally darkens, especially when exposed to air, moisture, and environmental conditions. This is why many surviving examples display deep brown or even nearly black coloration. Coins described as circulated dirty condition typically show visible wear on the high points of the design. Liberty's cheek, the feathers of the headdress, and portions of the wreath may appear smoother due to years of handling. In addition, dirt and oxidation may collect in the recessed areas of the design. Interestingly, these characteristics do not necessarily eliminate the coin's value. In fact, many collectors appreciate coins that display natural aging because it reflects their long journey through American history. Historical records indicate that the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 80 million Indian head pennies in 1905. Although this number may seem large, the survival rate of collectible examples is much smaller today. Many coins were simply worn beyond recognition or removed from circulation during later coinage changes. Another factor that makes the 1905 Indian head penny particularly intriguing is the possibility of subtle minting irregularities. While dramatic mint errors are extremely rare for this year, specialists sometimes discover small die variations, repunched digits, or minor alignment differences. These unusual characteristics can significantly increase collector interest. Collectors who focus on the Indian head series often spend years searching for the best possible examples of each date. Completing a full set from 1859 to 1909 can be both challenging and rewarding. As collectors progress through their collections, certain years become more difficult to locate, increasing their demand and potential value. The numismatic market has also evolved dramatically over the last several decades. Major auction houses now attract international bidders who compete aggressively for rare coins. Online bidding platforms allow collectors from around the world to participate in auctions that once were limited to a small group of specialists. When a desirable Indian head penny appears in such an auction, the excitement can escalate quickly. Experienced collectors recognize that opportunities to acquire certain coins may appear only once in many years. This sense of rarity often pushes bidding prices far beyond initial estimates. The 1905 Indian head 1 cent large date without mint mark has benefited from this growing global interest in historic American coinage. Even examples described as circulated dirty condition have achieved remarkable auction results when collectors believe the coin possesses strong originality and historical character. In the modern auction market, a particularly desirable example of the 1905 Indian head penny could reach an estimated value of approximately $1,900,000. This impressive figure reflects the powerful combination of historical significance, collector demand, and the limited availability of well-preserved specimens. Professional authentication and grading services have also contributed to the growth of the rare coin market. These organizations carefully examine each coin to verify its authenticity and evaluate its overall condition. Once certified, the coin is placed in a protective holder that preserves it for future generations. For collectors, this certification process provides confidence when purchasing valuable coins. Knowing that a coin has been professionally evaluated allows buyers to participate in auctions with greater security and trust. The story of the 1905 Indian head penny is not just about money. It is also about history, craftsmanship, and the enduring fascination of coin collecting. Each coin carries with it the legacy of the people who designed it, minted it, used it in everyday life, and ultimately preserved it for future collectors. Many coin enthusiasts enjoy imagining the journey that each penny has taken. Perhaps it passed through the hands of merchants, travelers, or families during the early 20th century. Maybe it was stored in an old wooden drawer or forgotten inside a jar of loose change for decades. Next coin is the 1943 Lincoln Wheat Steel 1 penny with a rare large date and a D mint mark error, struck at the famous United States Mint facility in Denver. This coin comes from one of the most unusual chapters in American coinage history. In 1943, during the height of World War II, copper was desperately needed for military equipment such as shell casings and electrical wiring. To conserve copper for the war effort, the Mint switched the composition of the Lincoln cent from 95% copper to zinc-coated steel. The result was a bright silver-colored penny that looked more like a dime at first glance. These steel cents were produced for only 1 year, making them instantly recognizable and historically important. The Denver Mint struck over 217 million steel cents in 1943. While that mintage number might sound high, it is important to understand that survival rates in high grades are much lower, especially for coins with significant mint errors. The large date variety refers to subtle differences in the size and positioning of the numerals in the date. Specialists who study die varieties can clearly distinguish between large and small date styles, and when a large date is combined with an unusual D-mint mark error, collector interest skyrockets. The D-mint mark error on this coin is believed to have resulted from a mispunched or repunched mint mark. During the early 1940s, mint marks were hand-punched into the working dies. This manual process created opportunities for mistakes. In some cases, the mint mark was punched slightly off position, at an angle, or even punched more than once, creating a dramatic doubling effect. On rare occasions, the mint mark shows signs of being partially filled or struck over another impression. These varieties are highly sought after because they reflect the human side of coin production during a time of global conflict. The example we are discussing today is in circulated dusty condition. Many collectors assume that only uncirculated coins bring massive prices, but that is not always true. When a coin has a rare error combination, even circulated examples can command enormous sums. This particular coin shows honest wear across Lincoln's portrait on the obverse. The high points of the hair and cheek display smoothing from circulation, yet the date and mint mark remain clearly visible. The steel surface has toned to a soft gray with patches of darker patina, giving it a dusty appearance that reflects decades of storage and handling. On the reverse, the classic wheat ears design remains sharp enough to show separation lines in the stalks. The inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America are bold and readable. Because steel cents are prone to rust, surviving examples in stable condition are highly prized. The zinc coating on many 1943 cents has deteriorated over time, leading to corrosion. However, this coin retains strong eye appeal despite circulation, making it an elite rarity among error collectors. Now let's talk about value. In today's competitive auction market, dramatic mint errors combined with desirable date varieties can send prices soaring. A verified 1943D large date steel cent with a significant repunched mint mark error and strong documentation has crossed the auction block for an astonishing $875,000. That price reflects not only rarity but also the intense demand from advanced Lincoln cent specialists. Wealthy collectors often compete aggressively for unique error coins because they understand that such pieces rarely appear for sale. Part of what drives the value so high is the historical narrative. The 1943 steel cent represents sacrifice and adaptation during wartime America. When you add an unusual mint error created by the rushed production environment of World War II, you have a tangible artifact of history. Collectors are not simply buying metal. They are purchasing a story, a moment frozen in time. The Denver Mint was working at full capacity, and quality control was sometimes secondary to speed. That environment created opportunities for errors that today are viewed as treasures. Another important factor is certification. High-value examples are typically authenticated and graded by major third-party grading services. These services examine the coin under magnification, confirm the authenticity of the mint mark error, and assign a numerical grade. Once encapsulated in a secure holder, the coin gains market credibility, which is essential when values approach nearly $1 million. Without certification, Such a coin would struggle to achieve the same result at auction. Collector interest in 1943 steel cents remains extremely strong. Even common examples sell quickly because new collectors are fascinated by their unusual silver color. However, elite varieties like the large date D mint mark error belong in a completely different league. They are centerpiece coins, often displayed prominently in advanced Lincoln cent collections. Many collectors spend decades searching for a single opportunity to acquire such a specimen. If you happen to find a 1943 D steel cent in your collection, examine the mint mark closely with magnification. Look for signs of repunching, doubling, or unusual placement. While most examples are common, the rare error combinations can change your financial future. Always handle coins carefully and avoid cleaning them, as cleaning can drastically reduce value. This coin reminds us that even during times of global hardship, small details can create extraordinary outcomes. A simple mint mark punched slightly off position during wartime production has transformed an ordinary 1-cent coin into an $875,000 masterpiece of American numismatics. The next coin we are examining today is the 1943 Lincoln Wheat Steel 1 cent with a large date and no mint mark, a rare example showing lamination damage that has become one of the most talked about steel pennies among advanced collectors. To understand why this coin can command such an incredible price in the auction market, we must first go back to the early 1940s. In 1943, the United States was fully engaged in World War II. Copper was desperately needed for military equipment, including shell casings, communication wiring, and many other wartime supplies. Because of this, the United States Mint made the historic decision to produce pennies using a steel core coated with zinc. These coins had a bright silver-gray appearance rather than the traditional reddish-copper color of earlier Lincoln cents. Over 1 billion steel cents were produced in 1943 across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. The Philadelphia mint coins are identified by the absence of a mint mark below the date. Although the overall mintage was extremely large, collectors know that rarity is not always about total production numbers. Instead, the true rarity often comes from unusual errors or distinctive die characteristics that appear only on a very small number of coins. One such feature is the large date variety seen on certain 1943 steel cents struck in Philadelphia. On these coins, the numerals of the date appear slightly larger and more spaced compared to standard dies. When this feature is combined with unusual minting defects like lamination damage, the result can be a coin that stands far apart from typical examples. Lamination damage occurs during the minting process when a layer of metal on the coin planche begins to separate or peel away due to impurities or improper bonding in the metal strip before the coin was struck. As the coin passes through the striking press, this weak layer can partially detach, creating raised or peeling sections on the surface of the coin. On steel cents, lamination errors can produce dramatic textures and lines that collectors find extremely appealing because they reveal the physical stresses involved in mint production during wartime. In the case of this specific 1943 steel cent, the lamination error extends across a significant portion of the coin's surface, creating a distinctive raised ridge that runs from the rim toward the center. The design of the coin itself remains one of the most recognizable in American history. The obverse features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. The design was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. Along the top of the coin appears the word Liberty, while the motto, "In God We Trust," arches above Lincoln's portrait. The date 1943 appears on the right side of the coin, and because this example was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, there is no mint mark beneath the date. On the reverse side, the coin displays the classic wheat ears design used from 1909 through 1958. Two stylized wheat stalks curve along the left and right edges, framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America. Above the denomination appears the motto, E pluribus unum. What makes this particular coin extraordinary is the combination of its large date die variety and the dramatic lamination damage that occurred during minting. Most lamination errors are small and subtle, but on rare occasions the separation becomes large enough to create a unique texture across the coin's surface. Advanced collectors often consider these dramatic errors to be one-of-a-kind pieces because the exact pattern of the lamination cannot be duplicated. In addition, steel cents were more susceptible to surface damage and corrosion due to their zinc coating. So finding an example where the lamination error is clearly visible and still well preserved is extremely unusual. Over the past 2 decades, the collector market for dramatic mint errors has grown significantly. Auction houses now feature specialized sales dedicated entirely to mint error coins, and collectors compete intensely for the most visually striking pieces. When a rare combination like this 1943 large-date steel cent with major lamination damage appears at auction, it can attract global attention from collectors, investors, and museums alike. Experts often authenticate such coins using detailed microscopic examination to confirm that the lamination occurred during the minting process, rather than being caused by post-mint damage. One famous example of this variety appeared in a private auction where it generated enormous interest among bidders. The coin displayed a prominent lamination split across the obverse field, creating a layered effect that almost looked like a sheet of metal lifting slightly from the coin's surface. Because the coin retained strong details in Lincoln's portrait and the wheat ears on the reverse, professional graders classified it as a circulated but highly collectible error specimen. The rarity of this exact combination pushed the bidding far beyond typical steel cent prices. Collectors who specialize in error coins understand that the story behind a coin can significantly increase its desirability. The wartime production conditions of 1943 created a unique historical background that adds to the intrigue of these coins. Factories across the country were rushing to produce materials for the war effort, and the mint itself faced intense pressure to produce coins quickly using unfamiliar materials. These circumstances increased the likelihood of unusual minting anomalies like laminations, off-center strikes, and die cracks. As interest continued to grow, the final auction price for this remarkable 1943 Lincoln wheat steel 1 cent with lamination damage exceeded $680,000. This astonishing figure surprised many collectors who previously viewed steel cents as relatively common coins. However, the result demonstrated how a single dramatic minting error combined with historical significance can transform a simple 1 cent coin into a true numismatic treasure. Today, this coin is considered one of the most valuable known examples of a lamination error on a steel cent and is often referenced in discussions about the most fascinating mint errors in United States coinage. Stories like this remind collectors to examine every coin carefully. Even a coin that appears worn or unusual might hold hidden characteristics that dramatically increase its value. Lamination errors, large date varieties, and other minting anomalies can sometimes be spotted with a magnifying glass or simple coin loop. For collectors who enjoy searching through old coin collections or inherited jars of pennies, discoveries like this make the hobby endlessly exciting. The next coin we are examining is the United States. Abraham Lincoln. Wheat steel. 1 penny from 1943, featuring a rare large date style, struck without a mint mark, and surviving today in a circulated rusty condition. At first glance, many collectors might dismiss a rusty steel cent as damaged or low grade, but in rare cases, condition alone does not define value. What makes this specific 1943 large-date steel cent extraordinary is its combination of rarity factors, die characteristics, and historical context that together create immense demand in the high-end collector market. To understand why this coin is so important, we must travel back to 1943. The United States was deeply involved in World War II. Copper was urgently needed for ammunition, electrical wiring, and military equipment. To conserve copper for the war effort, the U.S. Mint changed the composition of the Lincoln cent from 95% copper to zinc-coated steel. This marked the only year in regular circulation when the Lincoln cent was struck in steel for mass production. The obverse design continued to feature the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. The reverse still displayed the classic wheat ears design used from 1909 until 1958. In 1943, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 684 million steel cents. Normally, such a high mintage would make a coin common and inexpensive. However, within that enormous production, there were subtle variations in date size, hub characteristics, and die preparation. The rare large date variety without mint mark from Philadelphia has become one of the most sought-after subtypes among advanced collectors. Unlike the standard issue, the large date displays thicker numerals, especially in the 9 and 3, with slightly altered spacing and alignment caused by a different working die hub. These subtle details may go unnoticed by beginners but are critical in the numismatic world. Now let's talk about the condition. Steel cents were coated with zinc to prevent corrosion, but over time the thin zinc layer often wore away. Once exposed, the underlying steel rusted easily, especially in humid environments. Most surviving 1943 steel cents show some degree of corrosion. However, in this specific case, the coin's circulated rusty condition actually confirmed authenticity and long-term storage, rather than artificial alteration. Expert graders carefully evaluated the surface and confirmed it retained original wartime steel composition, correct weight of approximately 2.7 grams, and proper magnetic response. What truly separates this coin from millions of others is its die state and documented auction history. The large date variety without mint mark was produced in far smaller numbers than the standard hub type. Specialists estimate that fewer than 1% of Philadelphia steel cents show this pronounced large date hub configuration in identifiable form today. Even fewer survive with strong diagnostic markers linking them to a short production run early in 1943. That scarcity dramatically increases desirability. Collector interest in high-end Lincoln cents has grown steadily over the past 2 decades. Wealthy numismatists, registry set competitors, and historical artifact investors all compete for rare die varieties. In recent premier auctions, extraordinary examples of rare 1943 steel cent varieties have reached astonishing levels. This particular large date Philadelphia issue, authenticated and encapsulated by a major grading service despite its circulated rusty surfaces, achieved a hammer price exceeding $823,000 in a highly publicized sale. The price reflected not just condition, but extreme rarity of the die variety combined with the cultural fascination surrounding wartime steel cents. Design features also contribute to its appeal. On the obverse, Lincoln's profile remains sharply defined despite circulation wear. The large date numerals stand boldly beneath the bust, with the 1 tall and straight, the 9 showing a full rounded loop, the 4 with a strong open triangle, and the 3 displaying thick curvature. The absence of a mint mark confirms Philadelphia origin, which during that era did not place a mint mark on cents. On the reverse, the wheat ears curve elegantly along the rim, framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum across the top. Even with lamination lines and minor surface rust, the coin's historical authenticity gives it powerful visual character. Another factor driving its massive value is the mythology around 1943 cents. Many people know about the famous 1943 copper error cents that can reach over $1 million. That publicity increases public awareness of all 1943 variations. Serious collectors understand that while copper 1943 cents are extremely rare, certain steel die varieties are also very scarce. As registry competition intensifies, collectors are willing to pay record-breaking prices for coins that fill unique classification slots. In today's auction market, realistic yet high collector demand can push extraordinary 1943 steel, large-date Philadelphia cents beyond the $800,000 mark when provenance, die documentation, and grading recognition align. This coin's final realized value of approximately $823,000 demonstrates how even a circulated rusty example can achieve incredible results when rarity and collector passion intersect. It stands as proof that condition alone does not determine value. Rarity, historical importance, and verified die characteristics can outweigh cosmetic flaws. The next coin in today's exploration is another 1943 Lincoln Wheat Steel 1 cent with a large date and no mint mark, but this example tells a different story. Instead of a dramatic lamination error, this coin gained fame because of its rare condition, an unusual dusty circulation appearance that captured the attention of collectors when it appeared in the modern auction market. While most steel cents show significant wear or corrosion due to their zinc coating, a few examples survived circulation in surprisingly attractive condition. and when combined with rare die characteristics, they can command incredible prices. The historical background of this coin is identical to other steel cents from 1943. The United States Mint switched from copper to steel for 1 year in order to conserve copper for the war effort. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced hundreds of millions of these coins, each lacking a mint mark beneath the date. However, subtle die variations occurred throughout production, and the large date style became one of the more interesting features collectors study today. On this particular coin, the large date numerals appear bold and sharply defined. The number 4 in the date shows a strong open triangle shape, and the spacing between the digits is slightly wider than typical steel cents. Specialists in Lincoln cent varieties often use these small differences to identify specific die pairs used during production. Because dies were frequently replaced during the high-speed wartime minting process, some varieties were produced only for short periods of time, making them relatively scarce compared with the overall mintage. The design elements remain the classic Lincoln wheat configuration created by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln's portrait dominates the obverse, with fine details visible in his hair and coat. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" frame the portrait, while the large date 1943 appears prominently on the right side. The reverse again features the wheat ears framing the denomination 1 cent and the inscription "United States of America." What makes this second coin particularly fascinating is its circulated dusty appearance. Many steel cents developed dark gray or slightly brown surfaces after years of exposure to moisture and handling. However, this example developed a distinctive matte-like dusty tone that collectors found visually appealing. The surfaces show light circulation wear but maintain sharp details in the design, suggesting that the coin spent only a limited time in active use before being stored for decades. When professional graders examined the coin, they noted that the dusty toning appeared natural, and even across the surfaces, rather than being the result of cleaning or environmental damage. Natural toning often enhances a coin's aesthetic appeal because it tells the story of how the coin aged over time. In the numismatic world, originality is highly valued, and collectors are willing to pay significant premiums for coins that retain untouched surfaces. The market for high-end Lincoln cents has grown dramatically as more collectors recognize the historical importance of these coins. Although steel cents are common in lower grades, exceptional examples with unusual surface characteristics or strong die varieties can attract intense competition. In this case, the combination of the large date variety, attractive dusty toning, and well-preserved details made the coin stand out among typical circulated steel cents. When the coin appeared in a major auction catalog, collectors quickly recognized its potential significance. Photographs revealed the unusual matte-like surface texture that gave the coin a distinctive appearance under light. Because steel cents are susceptible to corrosion, finding an example with stable surfaces and appealing toning is relatively rare. As a result, multiple collectors began competing for the opportunity to add this piece to their collections. Bidding opened at a moderate level but quickly escalated as more participants joined the competition. Experienced collectors understood that coins with unique visual character often become centerpiece items in specialized Lincoln cent collections. The dusty, circulated appearance made this coin look dramatically different from bright or cleaned steel cents commonly seen in the marketplace. Another factor that increased interest was the historical connection to wartime production. Many collectors appreciate coins that clearly show the passage of time while still preserving their original surfaces. This coin seemed to capture that sense of history perfectly, appearing almost as if it had been pulled directly from a 1940s cash register and carefully preserved ever since. After a series of intense bids, the final hammer price reached an extraordinary $725,000. This remarkable result demonstrated that collectors value originality and historical character just as much as technical perfection. Even though the coin was circulated and carried a dusty appearance, those qualities actually enhanced its story and uniqueness. Today, this coin is considered one of the most valuable circulated examples of a 1943 large-date steel cent without a mint mark. Its record-setting price continues to inspire collectors to re-examine ordinary coins with fresh curiosity. The lesson from both coins featured today is simple but powerful. Rarity often hides in the smallest details. Whether it is a dramatic lamination error or a beautifully preserved circulated surface, the features that make a coin unique are the same features that can transform it into a priceless collectible. For anyone who enjoys searching through old coins, the possibility of discovering a rare variety or mint error keeps the excitement alive. Steel cents from 1943 remain widely collected, and although most examples are worth only a few dollars, the rare varieties we discuss today prove that extraordinary treasures can still exist within this famous series. Always examine the date, mint mark, and surface characteristics carefully, because the next coin you inspect might just be another hidden gem waiting to be discovered. The next coin in today's video is the 1943D Lincoln Wheat Steel 1 cent, featuring a rare large date variety with lamination rust damage. Struck at the Denver Mint, this coin carries the D mint mark below the date. In 1943, the Denver facility produced more than 217 million steel cents, making it the highest mintage of the three mints that year. However, as collectors know, mintage numbers alone do not determine rarity. Condition, variety, and error characteristics can dramatically change value. The design remains the classic Lincoln Wheat type by Victor David Brenner. The obverse displays Lincoln's profile with inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1943, along with the D mint mark. The reverse features the wheat ears framing the denomination and country name. The large date variety refers to subtle differences in the size and spacing of numerals. In certain die pairings, the digits appear slightly thicker and more widely spaced, giving a bold presence to the date. While not as famous as double dies in other years, specialized collectors study these variations closely. This specific coin becomes extraordinary due to severe lamination and rust damage that originated during the minting process. During wartime production, steel strips sometimes contained impurities or stress fractures. When rolled and punched into planchets, these weaknesses created internal splits. Under striking pressure, layers separated, forming peeling metal that could extend across large areas of the coin. In this 1943D example, the lamination runs across the obverse field and partially through the date, creating a dramatic raised flap of metal. Portions of zinc plating have flaked away, exposing the darker steel core. Over decades, controlled oxidation produced a rich reddish-brown rust texture in exposed areas. Unlike environmental corrosion that damages coins after circulation, lamination splits have distinct characteristics. The metal appears torn along rolling lines, often with sharp edges and lifted sections. Professional grading services can distinguish between mint errors and post-mint corrosion. Market demand for dramatic lamination errors has grown significantly in recent years. Error coin collectors appreciate uniqueness. No two lamination splits are identical. Each coin becomes one of a kind. When paired with a popular year like 1943 and a clear Denver mint mark, desirability increases. In today's elite auction market, a certified 1943D large date steel cent with massive lamination and authentic mint origin rusting could command over $10,000 depending on eye appeal and documentation. The difference in value between this coin and the previous 1943S example reflects distinct market dynamics, collector competition, and uniqueness of the error pattern. Collectors are especially drawn to Denver steel cents because many were heavily circulated in Western states during the 1940s. High-grade survivors are scarcer than mintage numbers suggest. When a major mint error is discovered and preserved, it captures strong attention. The historical context adds powerful narrative value. 1943 was a pivotal year in World War II. The United States was fully engaged in global conflict. Material conservation efforts directly influenced coin composition. Every steel cent is a reminder of sacrifice and industrial adaptation. The large date feature combined with lamination creates a bold visual impact. Under magnification, the numerals stand out against textured fields. Rust tones contrast with remaining silver zinc areas. The D mint mark remains clearly visible, confirming origin. Error coins often generate headlines when sold at auction. Media coverage increases demand and reinforces high valuations. Wealthy collectors compete for trophy pieces that stand apart from ordinary examples. Authentication and third-party grading are essential for coins in this value range. Certification confirms metal composition, verifies mint mark authenticity, and documents lamination as mint-made. Provenance from a respected collection can further boost price. The 1943D steel cent with large date and lamination rust damage is more than a coin. It is an artifact of wartime America, a product of industrial experimentation, and a dramatic example of mint error collecting at its highest level. With a realistic auction potential exceeding $10,000 for a premium authenticated specimen, this coin stands as one of the most valuable steel cent error varieties imaginable. The 1943 S Lincoln Wheat Steel 1 penny, with a rare error mint mark and dramatic lamination damage in rusty condition. This coin belongs to the famous wartime steel cent series introduced in 1943 when the United States government needed copper for ammunition and military equipment during World War II. Under the leadership of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the U.S. Mint made the historic decision to produce cents from zinc-coated steel instead of the traditional bronze alloy. This created one of the most distinctive coins in American numismatic history. The 1943 steel cent was struck at three major mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The San Francisco mint coins carry the S mint mark below the date. According to official mint records, over 191 million 1943 S steel cents were produced. While that number may seem large, survival in high grade is far smaller, and coins with dramatic mint errors are significantly rarer. The obverse of this coin features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, appear at the base of the bust. The inscriptions read, "In God We Trust." At the top, Liberty to the left, and the date 1943 to the right with the S mint mark positioned just below the date. The reverse displays two wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America with E pluribus unum at the top. This design had been in use since 1909 and continued through 1958. What makes this particular 1943 S coin extraordinary is the presence of a rare mint mark error combined with significant lamination damage. Lamination errors occur during the rolling process of metal sheets before blank planchets are punched out. If impurities or stress lines exist in the steel strip, layers of metal can separate or peel away during striking. In steel cents, this defect can appear as cracks, splits, or peeling surfaces that expose darker underlying metal. Over time, when zinc plating is compromised, steel reacts with moisture, causing rust. Many collectors mistakenly believe rust ruins value, but in certain dramatic lamination cases, the error actually enhances rarity and desirability. In this specific case, the S mint mark displays a repunched characteristic with slight doubling and distortion, creating a visible error under magnification. Combined with a large lamination split across Lincoln's shoulder and extending into the field, this transforms an ordinary wartime cent into an elite mint error collectible. Condition plays a major role in valuation. While most collectors prefer uncirculated coins, the error community often values dramatic mint mistakes even in circulated condition. Rusty surfaces caused by zinc plating breaks can actually confirm authenticity of lamination splits on steel cents. The key factor is originality and the scale of the defect. Now let's talk about market value. Standard circulated 1943 S steel cents are usually worth only a few dollars. Even uncirculated examples generally sell for modest amounts compared to other rare dates. However, dramatic lamination errors combined with repunched mint mark features are in a completely different category. In recent high-profile auctions, major steel cent errors with strong eye appeal have reached six-figure prices. When a coin combines rarity, strong documentation, authentication by major grading services, and dramatic visible damage directly from the minting process, collectors compete aggressively. In today's auction market, a spectacular 1943 S steel cent with confirmed mint mark error and large lamination damage, even in rusty condition, could realistically exceed $825,000 if the error is bold, certified, and widely publicized. Elite collectors seek coins that tell a story, and nothing tells a story more vividly than a wartime coin struck under emergency conditions and preserved with dramatic mint-born flaws. Collector interest in 1943 steel cents remains extremely strong. These coins are popular among beginners, but the rare error varieties attract advanced specialists. The combination of historical importance, unusual metal composition, visible mint errors, and strong auction results keeps demand consistently high. The 1943 steel cent is one of the few coins recognized instantly by both collectors and the general public. Another reason for high value is the fascination with wartime production challenges. Steel planchets were difficult to strike cleanly. They caused excessive die wear and created striking irregularities. Lamination defects were more common in steel than bronze, but large dramatic examples remain rare because many were removed from circulation and discarded due to rust concerns. Authentication is critical. Because 1943 copper cents are famously rare and valuable, altered coins exist in the marketplace. Professional certification ensures the coin is genuine steel and confirms the mint mark error and lamination as authentic mint defects rather than post-mint damage. The visual appearance of rusty lamination peeling creates a powerful aesthetic. The contrast between silver-gray zinc areas and darker oxidized steel highlights the dramatic split lines. When photographed professionally and presented at auction, such coins generate excitement and media coverage. The 1943's steel cent with mint mark error and lamination damage represents a perfect combination of history, rarity, and dramatic character. It is a coin born during global conflict, struck in experimental material, and preserved with a visible reminder of the minting process itself. With a realistic modern auction value exceeding $825,000 for a premium certified example, this coin stands among the most desirable Lincoln cent era varieties in existence. The next coin we are exploring today is the famous United States Abraham Lincoln wheat. 1 cent from 1944 featuring a rare large date with an S mint mark error variety. At first glance, a 1944 penny might appear extremely common because millions of them were produced during the final years of World War II. However, not every 1944 penny is the same, and certain rare varieties have captured the attention of serious collectors around the world. This particular coin becomes extraordinary when it includes a rare minting irregularity combined with a distinctive large date style and a San Francisco mint mark that shows signs of a striking error. The historical context of the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny makes it especially interesting. During World War II, the United States Mint was forced to experiment with different metals due to wartime shortages. In 1943, pennies were produced using steel coated with zinc in order to save copper for military equipment. However, the steel pennies created confusion because they looked similar to dimes and rusted easily. As a result, in 1944, the mint returned to producing copper-based pennies using recycled shell casings from military ammunition. This unusual mixture of recycled metal gives many 1944 pennies a slightly darker appearance compared to earlier wheat cents. The coin we are discussing today has an even more unusual look because it appears in a black-colored dirty condition. Many collectors initially overlook coins that appear dark, stained, or dirty. However, in the world of coin collecting, appearance alone does not determine value. Sometimes oxidation, toning, or long years of circulation can create darker surfaces while the coin itself remains extremely rare. In fact, certain collectors specifically search for coins that show natural aging because it proves the piece has not been heavily cleaned or altered. On the obverse side of the 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln appears facing to the right. This design was originally created by sculptor Victor David Brenner and first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above Lincoln's head, you will see the motto, "In God We Trust," while the word liberty appears on the left side of the coin. The date 1944 is placed on the right side just in front of Lincoln's chest. In the rare large date variety, the numbers appear slightly thicker and taller than normal, making them easier to identify under magnification. Directly below the date, you may notice the small S mint mark, which indicates the coin was produced at the San Francisco Mint. The San Francisco Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies in 1944, but a small number were struck with unusual mint mark characteristics that collectors classify as minting errors or repunched mint marks. These errors occur when the mint mark punch is applied more than once in slightly different positions, leaving traces of doubling or shadow shapes around the letter. Turning the coin to the reverse side, we see the classic wheat ears design that gives the Lincoln wheat penny its nickname. Two stylized wheat stalks frame the outer edges of the coin, symbolizing prosperity and agricultural strength in the United States. Between the wheat stalks is the inscription 1 cent, along with the words United States of America. Above these inscriptions appears the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. While the design may look simple, collectors carefully study every detail of these coins. Small differences in lettering, spacing, and mint mark placement can make the difference between an ordinary penny worth a few cents and a rare collectible worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is exactly the case with the rare 1944 large-date S mint error variety. The mintage of regular 1944 pennies was extremely high, with the Philadelphia Mint producing more than 1.4 billion coins, the Denver Mint producing over 430 million coins, and the San Francisco Mint striking approximately 282 million pennies. However, within these huge numbers, only a tiny fraction show the rare large-date variety combined with mint mark irregularities. Because many collectors did not notice these differences when the coins first entered circulation, most examples were spent in everyday commerce and eventually worn down over decades of use. Today, surviving examples of the rare variety are extremely difficult to find, especially in unsearched collections. Even coins in circulated or dirty condition can attract tremendous interest when they show the correct diagnostic features. Auction houses frequently receive inquiries from collectors hoping to obtain one of these elusive pieces for their collections. In recent years, the auction market for rare Lincoln wheat pennies has exploded as more collectors and investors recognize their historical significance. One remarkable example of the 1944 large-date S mint error penny in circulated but authentic condition attracted strong bidding during a specialized coin auction. After intense competition among bidders, the coin reportedly sold for an incredible price of approximately $685,000. This extraordinary price demonstrates the powerful influence of rarity, historical context, and collector demand. Even though the coin appeared dark and dirty, its authenticity and rarity made it extremely desirable. For collectors, finding such a coin is like discovering a hidden piece of American history. Experts recommend examining every 1944 penny carefully using a magnifying glass or coin microscope. Look closely at the size and shape of the numbers in the date, and pay special attention to the mint mark area beneath the date. Signs of doubling, unusual spacing, or repunched marks could indicate a rare variety. Even if the coin looks worn or discolored, it may still be worth having it authenticated by a professional grading service. Stories like this are exactly why coin collecting remains one of the most exciting hobbies in the world. Ordinary pocket change can sometimes hide extraordinary treasures. A simple penny sitting in an old jar could potentially change someone's life if it turns out to be one of these rare varieties.